Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to the vlog, episode 50. It is Meetup game day. This is super exciting. I am here early because I always show up to things early. I'm here like 2 hours early, and there's already a wait list of 12 people, so we are off to a good start. I want to go in there, I want to talk to people, I want to mix it up, I want to win some money. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. Let's get to it. When I arrived at 11:15 a.m., there was already a list of about a dozen people waiting. They've been promoting this game in the card room the last 2 weeks, and they have 3 tables reserved, so they're expecting a pretty decent turnout. I gotta admit, it's kind of surreal. I never thought I'd make it to this point, co-hosting a meetup game. I'm excited, and I'm nervous. I've got to get it out of my system, though, because today is an important day. If things go well, the card room could continue to do these events, and I can make a lot of money. If things go wrong, it could get expensive. The buy-in at this game is $200 to $500. I'm going to buy in at $400. I want to make sure I have a few bullets in my pocket in case I need them. The straddle is to $10, and we'll be doing double board bomb pots every dealer change. In the first hand of the night, there's a button straddle. We're in +1, and we look down at King 10 of spades. We see a call from the small blind before it folds to me, and I raise to $35. Kyle on the button calls, and the small blind calls as well, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is 9-10 jack with 2 clubs, so I flop middle pair and a gut shot straight draw here. It checks to me, I continue for $65, and they both fold, so we scoop this first one. There's another button straddle, we're in +1 again, and we peel back 2 queens. We see a call from under the gun before it folds to me again, and I bump it up to $35. Under the gun is the only caller, so we'll go heads up to a flop in position. The flop is Jack 8-6 with 2 hearts. It checks to me, and I continue on for $50 here, and my opponent calls, so we'll see a turn. The turn is a 2 of spades. Shouldn't change anything. It checks to me again, and this time I'm going to size up with my bet, and I bet $140. I want to put pressure on hearts while trying to extract a little bit of value out of a hand like Jack X or maybe pocket 10s. Once again, my opponent calls, so we're off to the river. The river is a 7 of spades. It checks to me for a 3rd time, and with my stack size, there's really no other move than to go all in, so I shove here. My opponent shows an 8, and then he folds. His name is Terry. He's a vlog watcher, and he's a really nice guy, so I decided to show the queens and keep it friendly. About 45 minutes into our day, they opened up a second table, so now we are the main game, and there's a must-move game. There's a button straddle. We're in the small blind with 5-6 of clubs. I called the $10 and it folds all the way around to the button straddler who checks, so we're off to a flop heads up. The flop is Ace-4-6 with 2 spades, so I flop middle pair and maybe some backdoor draws. I check, and my opponent checks behind, so we're off to the turn. The turn is a 10 of spades, so it brings the front door flush in. I decide to go ahead and fire, and I bet $15. My opponent calls, so we'll see a river. The river's an interesting one. It's the 5 of diamonds, so I spike 2 pair here. I opt to check to allow an ace to bet for value, and my opponent does. He bets $25. The action on me, and I check raise up to $65. My opponent doesn't think too long and he calls. We show 2 pair, and 2 pair is good. Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on 7-card flush poker, we're going to see a double board bomb pot. I'm in late position, and I look down at Queen 6 offsuit. The flop on the top board is 9-6 deuce with 2 clubs, so I flop middle pair. The flop on the bottom is 8 queen ace rainbow, so I flop middle pair there as well. It checks over to Kyle, who bets $35. I'm the only caller, so we'll see a turn heads up. The turn on the top board is a 6 of diamonds, so now we have trips. The turn on the bottom board is an ace of clubs, so it pairs the board. Kyle checks, and I elect to bet $60 here. Now, looking back, I'm laying him a great price to continue, about 3.5 to 1. I won't lie, I'm fairly new to these bomb pots, and my sizings are totally off, so it doesn't surprise me when Kyle makes the call. We'll see a river. The river on the top board is a jack of spades. It seems pretty safe, and the river on the bottom board is a jack of clubs. Kyle checks it over to me, and I think it's obvious that he has an ace and knows he has at least half of the pot locked up, so I decided to just check behind. Kyle flips over ace-10, so I'll take the top board, and he takes the bottom one. We later learn that Orange City doesn't really want us doing double board bomb pots, only single, so they'll be single board moving forward. We're straddling from the button this time, and we look down at 8-4 offsuit. We see a call from the big blind before it folds over to the cutoff, who also calls. I check my action. We're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is 7-8 jack with 2 spades, so a very connected board here where I've made middle pair. It checks to me, and I take a stab at it for $25. I get the big blind to fold, but the cutoff calls, so we're off to a turn heads up. The turn is a 9 of hearts, so it brings a 4-liner to the straight. My opponent checks, and with this dangerous board, I just check behind. The river is a king of clubs, and I'm not really sure how much that changes things. My opponent bets $25. He's given a lot of action so far, so I'll call one off here to see if he's bluffing. He rolls over queen 9, and he wins. Nice turn card, Terry. We're in the hijack, and we look down at pocket 5s. It folds around to the low jack, who bumps it up to $10. I make the call, as does Kyle in the small blind. The big blind folds, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is deuce 5-10 rainbow, so I have flop middle set here. Terry in the low jack bets $15. I decide to go ahead and not play super aggressive, and I just flat here, and Kyle on the button calls as well, so we're still 3 ways to a turn. The turn's a 3 of spades, so it brings in a flush draw now. Terry once again leads for $40, and I'm a little torn on what I should do. With the flush draw coming in, I might want to go ahead and bump it up a little bit to protect my hand, but I'm just so sick of playing a tag style. So if I flat here, perhaps Kyle either comes along or actually makes a play himself. So once again, I just call. Kyle folds. Oops, that didn't work. The river is an ace of hearts. It puts a 4-liner to the straight, but I don't think it changes much. I don't see him having a lot of 4s here. Terry once again fires, and he bets $50. Now, I need to come up with a size that can get a call, and so I bump it up to $150. Terry says that he's probably beat, but he ends up calling. I roll it over, and Terry shows pocket kings. Gross spot for him, but obviously great for me. There's a button straddle. We're in the hijack, and we look down at queen jack of spades. We see a call from the big blind as well as under the gun and the low jack, so when the action gets to me, I bump it up to $30. The button, the big blind, under the gun, and the low jack all call, so we're going off to a flop multi-way. The flop is 4-5-7 with 2 spades, so I flopped a flush draw here with 2 overs. It checks to me, and I fire for $80. The big blind then jams out of turn, so he kind of forces the button out of the hand. It folds back to me, and it's only $235 total, so it's $155 more to win like $450. I just don't think I can fold here, so I make the call. My opponent rolls over 6-7 for a pair plus a straight draw, so we'll see a run out. The turn is a king of hearts, the river a 6 of spades. We get there, and we scoop a nice sized pot. The very next hand is a bomb pot. We're in early position. The flop is king 3-8 with 2 clubs, and we look down at pocket kings. We see a bet from early position to $15. Terry makes the call, and when the action gets to me, I bump it up to $45. It folds to Terry to my right, who calls, so we're off to a turn heads up.
Terry, your fold button's broken.
The turn is a jack of clubs, so it brings in the flush. Terry checks it to me, and again, I'm just not super familiar with these bomb pots, and I don't really know what to do because he could literally be holding any 2 cards, so I just check behind. The river is a blank that won't change anything, and once again my opponent checks to me, and I just don't know how to navigate these spots in bomb pots, so he could definitely have any 2 clubs in his hand, so I elect to just check. My set of kings is good, and we now have over $1,200 in our stack. We're in the low jack when we look down at pocket 3s. We see an early position raise to $15. When the action gets to me, I call to go set mining. The cutoff calls, as does the button and the small blind, so we're off to a flop 5 ways. The flop is queen 6 deuce, all hearts, so not great here, but the action will check around, so we'll see a turn. The turn's a 3 of spades, so now I've picked up a set. Kyle in the small blind bets for $50. It folds around to me, and I bump it up to $125. I'm trying to charge a hand like ace-x or king-queen maybe with the king of hearts. Kyle starts to think. He takes a big sip of his blue moon, and then he comes to a decision. And it's to call, so we're off to the river. The river is a jack of diamonds. I don't think that's going to change anything. It checks to me, and on a board like this, I probably only get called by better, so I actually end up just checking. Kyle announces 2 pair, and I think I really messed up here and missed some value, but oh well, we'll drag this one our way. We're in the big blind, and we look down at pocket 9s. We see Kyle open up the action for $15. There are 2 callers before it gets to me, and I don't want to call and play this hand out of position, so I bump it up to $85. Unfortunately, they all fold, but that's $45 of money that I'm bringing in without having to see a flop. We're about 4 hours into our session. There's a button straddle. We're in +1, and we look down at pocket jacks. When the action folds to me, I bump it up to $30. +2 makes the call, and then the hijack jams all in for $130 more. It's back to me, and I'm wondering if I need to raise to get +2 out, but based on his reaction, he doesn't seem to have a $150 hand, so I elect to just flat. +2 does fold. My opponent has ace-king, so it's a coin flip. The flop is king 10-10. That's not great. The turn, however, is an ace of hearts, so I've picked up some straight outs. The river, a 9 of clubs. But that's okay. Almost 4 hours in, and that's really the first losing hand I've had. We're in the cutoff when we look down at pocket eights. We see 2 limpers before the action gets to me, and I bump it up to $15. We get 2 calls, so we're off to a flop 3 ways. The flop is jack 7 deuce with 2 diamonds, so a pretty good flop for eights. It checks around the middle position who bets $15. With the action on me and with the best hand, I want to apply pressure and I want to start to build a pot now, so I bump it up to $45. It folds back to the original bettor who thinks, but then he folds. We're straddling from the button and we look down at ace-queen offsuit. It folds around to under the gun who bumps it up to $40. It folds back to me, and I think I could definitely raise here, but I'm going to elect to just call and play this hand in position. We're off to a flop heads up. The flop is jack 4 deuce with 2 spades. Under the gun continues his story for $60. I consider raising, and I think it's what I have to do here, but he only has like $300 behind, so if I want to maximize fold equity, I'd have to shove here, and jamming almost $400 on ace high seems like a very negative EV play, so I elect to just call and evaluate the turn. The turn is a 5 of clubs. It's interesting because now I pick up a straight draw, and my opponent jams for $293 total. I don't think he's connected here, and I actually did pick up some additional outs, but I'm behind every single pocket pair and ace-king, so I end up laying it down.
I'll let you take it.
It's bomb pot time again. We're in the cutoff when we look down at 8-9 of diamonds. The flop is deuce 4-6 with 2 diamonds, so we flop a flush draw here. It checks to the hijack who bets $20. I think this is a good price, so I call. The button calls and it folds to under the gun who also calls, so we're still 4 ways to a turn. The turn is a jack of diamonds, so now I've made my flush. It checks to me, and there will be no free cards. I bet $95. The button then slides in the call. Everybody else folds, so the button's got my attention. Let's see a blank river. I don't quite get that in the deuce of clubs as it pairs the board. However, I want to apply max pressure, so I jam for $175 effective. He says he has to call even though he knows he's beat, and he calls. He rolls over deuce 3 of diamonds for the smaller flush, and we win a big one here.
Gotta call it anyway.
I think it's important to note that while winning some big pots, I've also won a lot of small pots, and these small pots over the course of an evening will really add up. We're going to play another bomb pot here, and we're going straight to the flop. It's queen deuce king with 2 hearts. I look down at ace queen of clubs. It checks to me, and I throw a bet of $35 out. It folds around to Kyle in late position who calls, and everybody else folds, so we're going to the turn heads up. The turn is a 7 of spades. Seems like a blank. I continue on here for $65, and Kyle doesn't think too long and he calls, so I think he could be doing this with a king, a worse queen, a Broadway draw, or hearts, so there's going to be a lot of cards I don't want to see on the river. One that I do want to see is a 4 of clubs. All the straight and flush draws bricked out here. I check to keep all of Kyle's bluffs in, and after thinking for a bit, he bets $150. This decision probably isn't as hard as I think, but I also know how good Kyle is, and he has way more experience with these bomb pots. Eventually, I think there's definitely a chance he could have missed hearts or a missed Broadway draw, and I'm probably best, so I put in the call. He says good call, I show and he mucks, and I win this one. He would later tell me it's 10 jack with no hearts. I'm glad I made the right read. We're in the cutoff and we look down at jack 8 offsuit. It folds around to me and I bump it up to $15. It folds to the small blind, who then 3-bets to $40. It's back on me, and I have position and a stack in front of me, plus I love Jack-8, so I make the call. The flop is 8-Jack-10 with 2 hearts, so I have flopped top 2 on this really connected board here. My opponent leads out for $40. With the action on me, I decide I want to raise, and I bump it up to $130. It's back on my opponent, and he thinks for a minute, and then he jams for $584 total. Alright. I have blockers to pocket 8s and pocket jacks, so I think I can eliminate those sets. I think he could be making a play like this with flush draws, or 9s, or queens and kings. I hate the idea of flipping for $600, but how do you ever fold here with 2 pair? After thinking for almost 3 minutes, I eventually make the call, and I'm up against queens, so exactly one of the hands that I put him on.
Back queens. Flush draw.
2 pair.
Queens. Wow. Good call.
The board runs out clean, and we scoop a massive pot. With almost $3K in front of me, I get to color up to the elusive $500 chip. We're straddling from the button, and what better hand to wake up with than pocket aces? We see the small blind bump it up to $20. The action folds around to Kyle, and he re-raises to $50, but I didn't see it. I thought he called, so when the action's on me, I try to raise to $65. However, I'm forced to just call Kyle's bet.
What's the bet? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see.
This really caught the small blind's attention, and with the action on him, he re-raises to $175. It's back on Kyle, and all I'm thinking is, please call here, Kyle, so I can jam. And that's exactly what happens when Kyle flats. The action on me, and I wait for a minute, and then I jam all in for $725 effective.
Come all in.
Heard. All you can eat, fellas.
The small blind then calls me off.
I guess I'll fold.
Oh, you took out all my outs. Damn.
It gets even better when the small blind reveals that he has pocket king, so he's only live to straights and flushes. And he's dead on the flop.
Wow, nice fold. Crazy. What a fold.
What a fucking fold. I mean,
I played about another 90 minutes after this hand, and I gave a little bit back when ace-deuce flopped trip 2s against my pocket kings, but the loss didn't really even put a dent in the day that I had. After 7.5 hours of playing with viewers, mostly Kyle's, I racked up and booked the biggest win of my poker career.
Let's go. I don't think there's much that needs to be said. I could not have asked for a more ideal situation, a more ideal table, and a more ideal sun run than that. I think I made some huge calls tonight, which all ended up being right. There were 3 of them that I thought were really big, and that brought me all the momentum. Gave a little bit back at the end of the night with my kings versus ace deuce. The ever. Fine. Call that all day. Overall, just what a great session for our first meetup game. We were into the game for $400, 1 buy-in, out for $27.41. So we made over $2,300 tonight. Pretty awesome. If you enjoyed, please like, please subscribe. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more poker content. And you can follow me on Instagram at 7cardflushpoker.